Good afternoon. I do see that we have a couple of people that have joined the room. I don't necessarily see who is here, so can someone just confirm, maybe via a quick message to the chat, that you guys can hear me? Wonderful. So my name is Valdas Sirutis, and I'm a senior investment advisor at Invest Lithuania. I have a pleasure of connecting with the guests of the USA-CEE Investment Summit today and providing some insight about Lithuania's business services sector. I'm going to touch a little bit on the FinTech sector as well, and just really sharing some information about how and why Lithuania has been a successful country in attracting foreign direct investment. And I'll do so through the kind of like going through the history of the companies that we have been able to attract here and what made Lithuania an appealing place, and then also sharing some of the success stories, as well as focusing on what are the future opportunities that lie ahead for Lithuania and also for the businesses that are potentially interested in our location. I may be able to finish a couple of minutes early, so you guys can get a coffee, a tea, or drink of choice to kind of get energized for the last couple of sessions of this great event so far today. So I'll go ahead and share my screen in just a moment, and we'll get going. There we go. One moment, please, as I'm having a very brief apologies. I'm just going to go ahead and share a different screen so I can see it much better. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm just having the screen on both of my screens. So let me just figure this out. Okay, well, we'll just do this. You guys confirmed you can see my screen, so we'll go ahead and just, I'll present it this way because I'm sure you can see it. So anyway, why Lithuania? Across the last, as I was kind of preparing for the presentation, I thought what would make sense to do is to kind of take a trip down the memory lane and share some information and some insight about who are some of these global organizations that have decided to come to Lithuania in the last decade, and why why they have communicated about their decision and why did they decided to pick Lithuania. So basically, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some of the global organizations that are headquartered in the US that have entered Lithuania's business services sector in the last decade. And then as I was going through the data and through the information and press releases and what the executives have said, not only at the initial stages, but also later on, as they have had experience in Lithuania for a couple of years, of what is it really that makes Lithuania a success in terms of the business services and how they're able to get value from the local workforce and other investment environment in general. So some of the common themes that stuck out, especially talking about obviously the local workforce and the people, where things like curiosity, the can-do attitude, and the behavior style, ability to speak different languages, the no-nonsense culture, and a lot of these things are actually very important, obviously, when making a decision about a location for a company's next destination for the business services center. And I think a lot of it can be kind of attributed to the history, to the history of Lithuanians fighting the oppression back in the early to mid to late 1900s, and our emancipation from the Soviet rule. So a lot of these things are cultural, which are obviously very, very important in the mindset of the people in the local workforce. is definitely very very imperative. But there's a lot of countries, especially in our region, that can kind of claim that their people are similar way as well. So just that alone is not what's going to be able to kind of sway the company, sway an organization, and help them make a decision. So really, along with that, there has to be a progress. There has to be a progress in other areas as well, such as making an investment environment much more appealing to the investor. I know that my colleagues from Georgia earlier today presented their presentation, and I, quite frankly, did not know that Georgia is number 7 globally in doing business ranking, but I wanted to share that Lithuania is number 11 actually. So to continue the theme of what I was talking about from the first slide is that across the last decade, really we've been able to make progress in the ease of doing business ranking, which quite frankly is a very important aspect and a data point when companies are looking to establish a presence, especially if the geography that they're looking to enter is not necessarily known to them, they're not quite familiar. They need to be able to understand how quickly they'll be able to obtain a business license, get a legal presence, what is the tax structure, and so on and so forth. So doing business ranking is exactly that. It takes 10 different um, areas that are imperative, and they kind of stack countries up against it and then provide a score. So in the last decade, we've made tremendous progress in updating our tax structure, reducing the burden to the organizations, improving the visibility into what the payments are that they have to make in terms of the tax. And really, the common theme, if you look at it from the business perspective, our goal as an organization, Invest Lithuania, and as a country in general, is to reduce the red tape, is to cut the red tape and provide businesses the desired outcomes quicker. Businesses and executives like that. They want to be able to have impact. They want to be able to see impact. They want to be able to hire people quickly, and they want to be able to see it not only in terms of how quickly things are happening, but also in the long run. It's also important for them to see those things in the bottom line as well, which I'll come back to that in just a moment. But just to continue the theme of continuous transformation and continuous improvement, obviously, the doing business ranking has been very important, and you'll see that we've been able to surpass some of our peer countries in the region, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary. But more importantly, if you look again at the business services sector and how it has evolved across the last decade, if you kind of juxtapose this and put it side by side, the doing business ranking and also the evolution of the business services sector, you'll see that there is actually a very close and interesting correlation there. So back in 2010, when we saw the first wave of the big centers enter the country of Lithuania, the Barclays, the Western Union, this was shortly after the global financial crisis when a lot of businesses had launched the cost optimization initiatives. So you'll see that a lot of the organization, some of those organizations that joined, that came to Lithuania, was purely a labor cost arbitrage play, right? So they were looking for a location that had the ability, the people had the ability to speak different languages, for a location that had still very good and cheap labor costs, educated workforce, and the can-do attitude that I alluded to in the second slide there. So that's how it all started, really, with those early entrants. The company that did come to Lithuania back then, they had a goal of growing to 3, 4, maybe 500 people, and then a couple of years later, we saw that the Western Union and the Barclays, for example, they were able to exceed 1,000 people, because what happened was once the businesses came here, they started gaining a lot more trust in the local workforce. They saw that the costs weren't growing as rapidly as they could have been. So there was a ton of value that the businesses were getting from the local workforce and from the local infrastructure as well. And then as the GBS, the Global Business Sector, continued to evolve in or around 2015, what the company saw is that, look, these people here in Lithuania, they're able to not only do the simple transaction processing, but they're very curious. They have the intellectual curiosity. They want to solve problems. They want to deliver value to the businesses. So why don't we allocate them? Now that we trust them, now that we understand them a bit more, why don't we let them do more? Why don't they become even more of a strategic business partner to us? So if we talk about the finance function, for example, there was actually one executive that I talked to a couple of weeks ago that told me about the story of them getting established and kind of up and running in Lithuania. They said, look, at first our goal was to just allocate and give them the order to cash and record to report processes, and be able to kind of like simplify, make them better along with using the technology. And then once they kind of delivered value there and we saw what they're capable of, then we said, why don't we allow them to take a look at our travel expenses as well? This is obviously all in the pre-COVID-19 world, but this is just a simple example of how after a company establishes itself in a certain geography, they're able to gain trust, understanding, establish collaboration with the local universities. They get more and more value out of a certain geographic location, right? And obviously, cost has to be right as well. And I'll come back. I'll come to that in a couple of slides there. And then, as you think of the progress and the continuous evolution of the business services sector, now we have players like Moody's and Revolut that are kind of, they're hiring people that have for very advanced functions. For example, Moody's is hiring data scientists, right? For example, NASDAQ has been in Lithuania since 2015, and they continue evolving. They manage a lot of the infrastructure and the software for equity trading in the Baltic countries and in all of Nordic Europe. They actually call themselves a competence center. They don't like the term shared services or business services. They call themselves a competence center. So the story here is that Lithuania's progress in the last decade has been kind of like juxtaposed, and it's been tied to the evolution of the business services sector as well, with enterprises gaining more and more belief and trust. And then if you throw the whole COVID-19 pandemic into the mix, nowadays a lot of the management consultants, the EYs and the Deloittes and the McKinseys of the world, they continue talking about how business services function, shared services or business services function, they have an opportunity to become a catalyst for business and for finance transformation. They have they have access to more data than any other function usually, and if the right tools and if the right processes and if the right talent is in place, business services can deliver more value than ever before, especially after transitioning to working from home successfully too. So this has been a very, very positive thing for us. The evolution has been great, especially in the last couple of months, or even maybe 6 months, let's say. The business services centers in Lithuania that have of the companies that also have other presence geographically, let's say in Southeast Asia or elsewhere in the EMEA region. We've been communicated that they have been able to also kind of move up the corporate ladder in terms of importance and being a strategic business partner by simply taking on some of the ad hoc requests and some of the tasks that other geographic locations weren't able to perform because of the infrastructure problems, because of the cultural problems when moving to work from home. So this has also been an opportunity for them as well. And as I move on to show you where the GBS sector is today, it has evolved to over 81 GBS centers currently in the country, and over 19,000 people employed in the sector as well. With, to no surprise, 38% of the GBS centers are from companies that are headquartered in the United States, which is an extremely great trend to see. And to kind of drive on that point further, I wanted to pull up a few of the latest investments that we've seen in the sector. So you'll see, I already mentioned Moody's before, right? So they are hiring for sophisticated roles such as data scientists. They have a very great collaboration going on with local universities. They actually allocated 200,000 euro scholarship to a local university, and they created a Moody's Analytics Lab. So these are all the examples and the things of how businesses are able to come here to understand the local market, to tap into it successfully, and to really glean value. Now, obviously, it may not always be easy depending on what your corporate objectives are and what you're trying to do, but there is definitely a lot of opportunity in Lithuania, and a lot of opportunity still remains here today as well. as I move on to the next slide, and I know that I'm probably coming up on time here soon, cost is definitely plays a role as well. What we typically see is, GBS or shared services is typically an initiative that is aligned to the finance function. So there's not an executive out there that doesn't have some sort of a cost play, whether it's a deliverable per se, right? Whether it's earnings per share target, whether it's adjusted EBITDA margin, a cost optimization plan, or whatever it may be. So cost has always been and always will be an important part in GBS decisions and making a decision. So again, going back to the doing business ranking and then the average hourly labor cost, you'll see that this is actually from another client that we received. So we plotted this and kind of put the average hourly labor cost and the doing business ranking on the left-hand side. So you'll see that the Baltic countries kind of emerge in the upper right-hand corner, which is still a great trend to see. And then the wage growth in the last couple of years has plateaued as if we talk about IT and non-IT related functions, which is another great trend to see as we talk about the evolution, continuous evolution of the sector. And really, just to kind of wrap up in terms of opportunities for the future, we see immigration as being one great opportunity. Lithuania has one of the fastest blue card procedures. So one of the recent changes is that the highly educated and experienced professionals that are looking to come to Lithuania from non-EU countries and obtain a blue card, they can do so, and they can work in Lithuania while still waiting for the blue card, which is a great thing that we've seen. IT talent development, obviously, no surprise there. Every country, every geography, every market of the world either lacks or needs more of IT capable workforce. So there's a lot of great, exciting initiatives in Lithuania, such as requalification program. We also have a program that allows and compensates organizations that are looking to deploy either RPA or some sort of automation initiative within their GBS center. That's another great initiative that we have going on. And then last but not least is the FinTech sector. Obviously, many of you may know that Lithuania has become kind of like one of the FinTech hubs within the EMEA region, especially after Brexit. So we have a great regulator in the Bank of Lithuania that has created kind of like a sandbox for these organizations to come and do business and to kind of like experience and be able to capture the market share within their specific product or within their specific market. So I know I've kind of threw a lot at you there, and I know that we're maybe coming up on time. I will be here for the rest of the day, and sorry for some of the technical glitches that I had earlier as I began the presentation, but would be thrilled to continue the conversation and to provide insight about anything Lithuania related that would be of interest to you. So again, thank you for attending, and I look forward to hopefully connecting personally.